And good morning. It is Wednesday. It is October the 12th. This is Common Sense America. I am Eden Hill, and it's so great to be with you here this morning, this beautiful fall sweater weather morning. I'm so glad to be with you all. Thank you so much for all who are tuning in this morning. We have a very special hour segment for you planned, and we are looking forward to sharing more with you as we head into this next hour. I will tell you that after hearing the news yesterday of the passing of Angela Lansbury, she was America's actress. She was 96 years old, turning 97 this week. And what a life that she lived, what a legacy, a true treasure on stage and also in Murder, She Wrote. We will be talking more about her life today. Also, we will be talking to the producer, Jeff Hayes. He is known for Fahrenheit 9/11, and he is the producer of the Real Anthony Fauci movie coming out October 18th at 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time. And right here, I have Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s book, The Real Anthony Fauci. If you have not read this, it is a thick read. It is intense. But as I was sitting here looking at it again, reviewing for the interview with Jeff Hayes at 9:30, there is a lot of powerful information in here that Bobby Kennedy Jr. outlines for the American people. It is a toolkit right here of what happened during the rise of COVID in 2020 and how he really did basically intend to do what happened to the American people during COVID. I am not wanting to be cautious with my words, but I'm also wanting to be cautious because we are streaming on LinkedIn, YouTube, also on Facebook, and this will be carried on Rumble and also on EdenGordonMedia.com later today if for some reason we do end up getting censored. But I will tell you that this movie, the Real Anthony Fauci movie, is the reason why they're doing this, is because so many of us have been censored. It even says, we invite you to join us and share rights right now here. The forced vaccine campaign and the other cruel actions by Dr. Fauci might seem too big to fail, but that is up to us. We can bow down and comply, take the jabs, wear the face coverings, show our digital passports on demand, and submit to those tests. Or we can say no. We have a choice, and I'm inserting this. We, the people, we have a choice, and it's not too late. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s book closes his spellbinding book right here with the quote, "We'll see you on the barricades." Well, this time is now, and these are the barricades. And as we talk to Jeff Hayes and his film, The Real Anthony Fauci Movie, we are going to talk about censorship. We're going to break it down for you as to what happened during that time period and what this movie is really about. There's a lot that we need to uncover. There's a lot that the American people still need to know. We are not going to take this lying down. We need to know the answers, and The Real Anthony Fauci Movie is going to do just that. So we do hope you will stay tuned until 9:30 to listen to Jeff Hayes, his story behind his production, this documentary, and also to hear more about his other works as well. He does discover, uncover, and he communicates with the American people. And we are honored to have him here this morning. Also, as we are talking about what is ahead for this nation, what is ahead for our country, what is ahead for the midterm elections, and what is coming up, we do have 26 days. We are on the countdown clock until the elections November 8th. Now, I do know here in North Carolina, they are starting early voting. I don't agree with early voting. I think it's a corrupt system. I do not agree with it. And I think there's a lot of things that are hidden in early voting. So I'm saying that right now. I saw a lot of corruption when I was on the campaign trail with early voting. What goes on in early voting is illegal. And I'm calling it out right now. I'm calling out those who are leading the North Carolina state government, the governor, all of the offices. Early voting is illegal, and you know it. So, on that note, yesterday I received in the mail 20, let's see, Voter Guide General Election for 2022. If any of you have received this, do check it out. Don't pitch it. This is something that you need to be looking at. This outlines everything for what is ahead for the election on November the 8th. It is a voter guide by North Carolina Family Policy Council. Go to ncfamilyvoter.com. That's ncfamilyvoter.com. Go there. They quote say it's an impartial, nonpartisan look at North Carolina candidates. I do know Ted Budd was in another part of the state last night. I do know that he has been on the front lines. He is the Trump endorsed candidate for the United States Senate against Sherry Beasley. And I do know that for all of those who are tuning in, whether you're here in North Carolina or whether you are around the nation and you are supporting this show, I do encourage you to first pray for those who are running for office. I encourage you also to read up on the candidates that are seeking to represent you, whether it's local, state, or federal. I also encourage you to look up organizations like North Carolina Family Voter because they do provide a lot of information out there. Faith and Family, or the Faith and Freedom Coalition, also puts out a voter guide. Also, the North Carolina GOP has a voter guide. And in addition to that, if you look at Family Research Council, Attorney Perkins organization, they are actually hosting an event today with former Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann and many others. And Dr. Mark Harris will be on our show on Friday to break it down, what is happening in our nation and around our nation as it pertains to midterms and as it pertains to faith in the public square. That's what I love about Family Research Council. They break it down, they host these events, they engage, they're taking stands on our freedoms and our rights. We the people still do have a voice for right now until we do get censored, but we need to be standing up and we need to be educating ourselves on what the candidates are about. Living here in the state of North Carolina, running for state house was an eye-opening experience, having been behind the scenes for congressional candidates, Senate candidates, and running behind the scenes as a comms director and a press secretary for many federal elected candidates. And it was an eye-opener here to see that the good old boys club here in North Carolina, here in Eastern North Carolina, especially the Tea Party, that's what they are. They're a good old boys club, and they have been infiltrating an illegal action that the State Board of Elections is investigating. And that was reported about a month ago in the newspaper. I didn't see a lot of media picking it up here around this area. I don't know if they are not wanting to talk about it because they don't think it's important, or if they don't want to talk about it because they don't want to even go down that dark path. It is a dark path. There are sitting elected officials local here that are corrupt. And the Tea Party is one of them, and they need to be taken out, and they need it to be taken out now. My husband and I witnessed that. They did character defamation. They did character assassination to my husband and I when we were running for state house. And that is uncalled for. And I know that Trump and many others have gone through it, but at a local level, it is screwed up and it's flat out vile and pathetic. And the people that they endorsed are vile and pathetic. That is what I'm calling it this morning. So for those who are tuning in, I am riled up this morning. It is Wednesday. It is October the 12th, and we have 26 days until we either get vile and pathetic people in office or we actually get people of integrity, people who believe in God, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the American way, not China, and not corrupt, underhanded, illegal, fraudulent activity. We need to believe in the United States of America. We need to believe in conservative values, not Republicans and name only people, and not progressive Democrats. Too much big pharma, too much big tech, too much big media. And we're going to be talking about big pharma, big media, and big tech today, thanks to Jeff Hayes and his production of the Real Anthony Fauci movie. So that was my little rant for this morning. You haven't heard the last of me with regards to the Tea Party and the illegal fraudulent activity that's going on in our Eastern North Carolina area, because there's more to uncover and there's more coming. And we're going to be exposing it, because I've had it with people being quiet. I've had it with people putting their heads in the sand, and I've had it with threats. People need to grow up and stop being pathetic and vile. Get your acts together and fight for this nation, fight for our next generation, fight for our education, and fight for the American people. Your corrupt systems are going down. For anybody who would like to send in comments, questions, thoughts, for guests to come on, I'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions. There are a lot of things that need to be talked about. We have a lot of great guests coming on next week. We have Dr. Linda Lee Tarver coming on Monday. She is running for Board of Education from the state of Michigan. And we had a very enlightening conversation yesterday. She will be joining me for the full segment on Monday, October the 17th. And she is telling me similar things that I have uncovered here in the state of North Carolina, she has uncovered in the state of Michigan. A lot of similarities, a lot of illegal activity going on. And she is fighting against the indoctrination. She is fighting for a true education. She loves what Arizona is doing for our education. Arizona is leading the way for education. And for all of the states out there who are blue or purple turning blue, look to Arizona for the education policies and what they are doing for the students that lost so much during COVID. That little elf that needs to be chucked across the Potomac River, I quote Governor Ron DeSantis, America's governor, he screwed the education system. He screwed our education for our next generation. But that little elf also exposed quite a bit to the parents, and now giving parents back their parental rights to make sure their children are getting the best education possible. That little elf is not a little elf on the shelf. He needs to be tossed. How about Atlantic or Pacific? I'm going to up it, Governor DeSantis. Not into the Potomac. He needs to just be out of the picture altogether. I will tell you, in all my years of doing communications and serving elected officials, doing crisis communications, fixing up some of their statements that they wish they hadn't said in public, on public record, undoing them, undoing the statements, retracting the statements, doing crisis communication. At the end of the day, I woke up this morning and God was just giving me some powerful words that I want to share with you. As a communications director, as the owner of my media business, and as the host of Common Sense America, as so many women, men, family, husband, so many have surrounded me and lifting me up as I've been taking these next steps of faith. Communication has been such a powerful part of my life and my career. And God gave me the word that's saying this morning to me, that my work matters to God and my words matter to God. And this show matters to God and my life matters to God. And the reason why I'm saying that is because my industry has come under so much scrutiny and attack over the years. And I've seen so many people in the past couple years since COVID, they seek you out for recommendations and consultations, and then they try and do it themselves. And I've seen so many people get such a bad rap in our public relations industry. I am a publicist. I'm a strategic communications publicist, and I'm honored to serve so many. I'm honored to serve our veterans, our military, our elected officials who are not corrupt. There's not many of them left. I'm also honored to serve those who are listening in to this radio show, talk stream, and also the podcast, Common Sense America. It is about common sense. But at the end of the day, remember, from a biblical standpoint and overall serving, your life matters. And what you have on this journey, what you've accomplished, think about the small things that you have accomplished today and the small things that you may accomplish later on today. Those are the big things. Whether they be small to you, they are big to somebody else. So don't stop making a difference and don't stop raising your voice. Don't stop fighting because you know what? We have this election coming up. We have the little elf that thought he could. We have 2024 ahead of us with, I'm estimating about 750, 740 days until 2024. But what we do as Americans, what we do as people of faith, and what we do is going to change the course of this nation, good or bad. On that note, we're going to focus today on Fauci and the real Anthony Fauci movie that's coming out. But I also want to focus on the life and the legacy of Angela Lansbury. And you're saying, why in the world is Eden doing this today? Well, I will tell you, the people have spoken. And I have noticed as I've been doing the show for almost 2 months now, I have been noticing the insights on my pages and what people are responding to. I think people are getting tired of hearing the same news, the same rant, and they're looking for something that is going to tie them to God, family, and country. The arts are just as important. Lifting the good, the true, and the beautiful is powerful. And engaging the arts, looking for new leaders, looking for autobiographies, looking for well-written books, looking for mystery, looking for some adventure. You find it in books. You find it in good movies. You find it in film. You find it on the stage. And today and this morning and the time that we have until Jeff Hayes joins us at 9:30, it's about 17 after 9 on Wednesday, October the 12th. I wanted to read to you, yes, the New York Times, a legacy newspaper. Don't start throwing things at me, but they did a really great article and write-up about Angela Lansbury. So embellish me for a few minutes as we talk about one of my favorite TV shows, Murder, She Wrote. Yes, I own probably every book. There is a new book coming out in January of 2023. And yes, I watch on Dish, the Dish network I have. I watch on Cozy TV and Hallmark Movies and Mysteries. And no, they're not paying me for these name drops, but they do Murder, She Wrote back to back every night. And I get to sit down and enjoy a good mystery. And you know what? You know what? For the 1980s and her overlap with Magnum PI and many of the other great shows, they weren't forcing a progressive agenda down your throat. It is an easy way at night to relax and enjoy something that is not going to be shoving an agenda down your kids' throats or in your head, something that you have to fight with before you go to bed at night. That's just ridiculous. It's a way to relax, kind of reflect on the day, enjoy a fun mystery. And it's also something I want to recognize with Angela Lansbury. She was in her 50s when she got Murder, She Wrote. And I sat there and thought, oh my gosh, for all of us women who are somewhat midlife, I'm 45. I just turned 45. I'm not far from where she was when she got her leading role, 12 seasons, 9 years of Murder, She Wrote. And how many Emmy nods? Oh my gosh. So, like I said in the beginning, your work matters to God. My work matters to God. No matter how many people want to take us out or try and destroy our whole career, I mean, people will do that. I'm a testament to that. But what I love about Angela Lansbury and her character, Jessica Fletcher, she took this role, this leading role on a series for 12 seasons at midlife and showed that women at midlife still have a career, still have journey, still have opportunities at hand. I'm excited to see other women in this role, other women take on these opportunities. That's something very powerful, especially back in the 80s when the show was on. It didn't end until 1996. So let me read you a couple clips from the New York Times while we're waiting for Jeff Hayes to join us at 9:30. Embellish me just for a few minutes because I want to pay honor and tribute to an amazing woman leader as we head over to the New York Times. A surprise hit. Miss Lansbury as a mystery writer and the amateur sleuth Jessica Fletcher on the hugely successful CBS series Murder, She Wrote. For all her stage success, quote the New York Times, Miss Lansbury would capture the biggest audience of her career in 1984 when she was cast as the mystery writer and amateur sleuth Jessica Fletcher, or as known as Mrs. F, on the CBS series Murder, She Wrote. It was widely believed that the series, whose protagonist was a bicycle riding widow living in a small town in Maine, had little chance against a sexier competition like the action crime drama Knight Rider, for all of those who remember, on NBC. The conventional wisdom was that advertisers would not go after the older audience that show was likely to attract. We were getting condolences even before we went on air, said Richard Levinson, one of the show's creators, recalled. At best, we hoped that it would be a marginal success. Oh my gosh, can you imagine? They already went into it thinking it was going to fail. Instead, the show became a huge hit. In its second season, it outdrew Steven Spielberg's highly anticipated anthology series, Amazing Stories, by more than 2 million viewers a week, and it went on to run until 1996. What appealed to me about Jessica Fletcher, Miss Lansbury said, early in the show's second season, is that I could do what I do best and have a little chance to play a sincere, down-to-earth woman, she quoted. She received 12 successful Emmy nominations for her portrayal of Jessica Fletcher, but she never won. She remained active on television. She returned to her signature role in 4 made-for-television Murder, She Wrote films and in movies, notably Disney's animated Beauty and the Beast, in which she was the voice of the talking teapot. And there were more Broadway performances to come. Though she never won an Oscar or an Emmy, Miss Lansbury received an honorary award from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences for creating some of cinema's more memorable characters and inspiring generation of actors. A year later, she was made a dame by Queen Elizabeth II. Some of her quotes. Quotable Angela Lansbury quotes. I believe age should not stop you from keeping on. Let me repeat that. I believe age should not stop you from keeping on. She also said, I really can't honestly give any tips beyond hang on to your dreams. Hang on to what you want, what you feel you want to achieve, and go for it. We are all the victims of our own talent and our own shortcomings sometimes. And we have to be aware of those things because they will trip us up and stop us from achieving what our aims are. She said, I'm never left behind. She said, I am the bionic woman. She also said, I have an incredible relationship with my husband, my family. I know they've had problems of their own, but we have never wavered in our closeness as a family. I've had a hell of a life, she said. She also said, I'm eternally grateful for the Irish side of me. That's where I got my sense of comedy and my whimsy. And as for my English half, that's my reserve side. Put me on stage and the Irish comes out. The combination makes a good mix for acting. She also said, I don't care whether it's a chance meeting or playing a role that you thought was totally wrong, but you did it anyway. It will often turn out to be the thing that will lead you to the role, which is sublime. In a few minutes before the break, I'm going to read a final quote. I'm going to just reread it for all of those who are listening in. I really can't honestly give any tips beyond hang on to your dreams. Hang on to what you want, what you feel you want or to achieve, and just go for it. We all are victims of our own talent and our own shortcomings sometimes. And we have to be aware of those things because they will trip us up and stop us from achieving what our aims are. Okay, people, If you have your shortcomings, let them go. Stop tripping yourself up. Believe, achieve, determine. Be determined and be those leaders. Hang on to what you want and what you believe in. On that note, we're going to take a quick break and get ready for Mr. Jeff Hayes, who is the producer of the Real Anthony Fauci movie. I cannot wait to dig in on this interview. It's going to be loud. It's going to be all things on the table. It's going to be God, country, family. We are America. We are America. We, the people, we have spoken. I hope you are listening. We will be right back.
Hey there.
Good morning. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Just perfect. How are you doing?
Oh, it's so good to finally meet you. I've been sitting here going over my notes. I tell you what a read. What a read. I am so glad to have you here this morning. And let me just introduce you to the show. Good morning, everyone. This is Eden Gordon Hill. This is Common Sense America. We are back after the break. We are here with Jeff Hayes. He is the producer of the Real Anthony Fauci movie, a documentary coming out on October the 18th. And Jeff, it's so great to have you here this morning. I want to dig deep on this. Talk to me about I love your website. I love the work that you are doing. I am just so blown away by all the different documentaries you have done. And let's talk about the real Anthony Fauci movie. I am all about health freedoms. I'm all about taking away the jabs, forcing, the boosters and everything. And just yesterday for Halloween, I saw somebody post, here's a skeleton in our front yard, and it says, "We took the booster for you." And I thought, oh my gosh, that is true and to the point. So, Mr. Hayes, talk to us about this documentary. I'm excited to hear all about it.
Yeah, this book that Bobby Kennedy wrote, The Real Anthony Fauci, was a phenomenon in publishing this year. It sold 1 million copies, 17 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list, and yet still there has not been one major media review of the book. It has been, not even criticized, just ignored. Bobby was liberal royalty.
Yes.
His
Yes.
was the Attorney General of the United States. His uncle was the President of the United States. There was no one that he couldn't pick up the phone and call in the
Exactly.
United States. And after he took a stand on vaccines, he became a pariah. And he used to write a column, an opinion column, at least twice a year for the New York Times. They act like he doesn't exist. This is the most suppressed book of our lifetimes. And in the midst of this is, and I don't know how many pages your copy has. When the book came out, there was a paper shortage. And he's got a scrappy publisher in New York, a guy named Tony Lyons, who I love. He found paper everywhere he could get it. So my copy of the book was 650 pages. I don't know how many.
This is 450.
Yeah, it just depends on the size of the paper, but you can see it's got, tiny margins, small print.
Yes.
It is a daunting read. It is
Yes.
exhaustively researched and meticulous in their fact checking. And when I read the book, I was so surprised with so much. I thought, okay, if people could get this in a more digestible format, instead of a 400 to 600 page book, a lot more people can be exposed to the information. So I called Bobby and asked him if I could make a documentary of it. I've known him for years, and he allowed us to do that. And it was spectacular. I'm so proud. I can't wait for you to see the film. We've really done a good job with it.
Well, talk to us about the film. Is it going my fear for you and my fear for those who want to tell the truth is that it's going to somehow be censored. It's going to be this censorship of the truth is so daunting. And I sit here and I was explaining to my audience, we're on YouTube, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, and we are live streaming radio. But at the end of the day, I have been censored on YouTube specifically. Those fascists will take me off every time I talk about health freedom or the jab. And, I'll probably get a couple community things this morning after having this conversation with you. But so talk to me about that. What's that looking like for you as you take these steps?
Yeah, we built our own platform. So we're releasing it on October 18th. People can go and register to see it now, therealanthonyfaucimovie.com. 18th, we're going to put it up for 10 days for free.
Okay.
And we may have to, we need people to register to see it because we may have to shift where it's being seen several times during the 10-day period. We had one of our editors edited a 10-minute section and sent us a review copy on his private, non-public facing YouTube channel, password protected, and YouTube took it off his private account for violating their policies. Just
wow.
A section of the film. We've already been blacklisted by here's a brand new site, therealanthonyfaucimovie.com, and we've been blacklisted. We've appealed all of those. To get around that, right now we're talking to several well-known politicians about having it also on their site during this 10-day period, because there's some policies around not being able to take down politicians' sites. And so, anyway, we'll figure this out. People just need to go to therealanthonyfaucimovie.com, and once we find them, we'll find you. And we have some other, I don't want to give too many URLs, but if someone wants to email us at watch at theycan'tblockus.com.
Okay.
If they're blocked from going to the site, if they'll email us there, we'll email them the link.
Can you say that one more time? I'm going to post it.
Yeah, watch at theycan'tblockus.com.
Theycan'tblockus.com. Okay, I will post that after the show and
The-
make sure that's on because I'm going to be posting this on Rumble, which is very good about not taking anything down. So this will be going up on Rumble and then on my private site as well. So I'll make sure that we share this and post this all over the place
But
to get this.
isn't it absurd that we have to even have this
Yes.
conversation?
Yes.
And this was a casualty of the COVID period, where entire Bill of Rights, we lost every right except the Second Amendment. But freedom of press, freedom to gather, freedom of religion, one by one. And not only did we lose these rights, but half of the country stood by and applauded as this happened. One of the things Bobby talks about in the film, in 1961, on Bobby's birthday that year, he remembers a speech that he thinks is one of the most important speeches that's ever been given in the U.S. from Eisenhower. This is the famous speech where Eisenhower talks about the military-industrial complex. We're seeing all of that come true as now we have the military. You know, half of Fauci's funding is coming from the Department of Defense. There's a reason he's the highest paid employee. And out of millions of government employees, he's the highest paid. Is because of the people that he serves. And when we have in the film, you'll see these tabletop games that they played, these war games, where they played out what would happen if there was a coronavirus, and they gamed their responses of, we need to shut down the anti-vaccine movement, we need to all these steps they were taking. But sitting at the table were members of the press, someone from the New York Times, there were public policy experts, people from the WHO, but also a representative and a host from the CIA. Now, this is an intelligence agency. Why is an intelligence agency that's supposed to be operating outside of the United States, why are they hosting a public health tabletop game? And every one of these games that we show in the film, they are always there. This is a much darker story than I believed when I was first exposed to Anthony Fauci.
Well, I wasn't sure if I had the legal right to play the clip of America's Governor, Ron DeSantis, talking about Fauci, the little elf that could, or the little elf that we need to chuck across the Potomac. And I said earlier, as I was, paraphrasing, America's governor, I think he needs to be chucked across the Pacific rather, and just get him out of here altogether. And as I was looking at the income that he has made, now this could obviously have been changed over since that time period. His annual salary, the highest paid of all 4 million federal employees, including the president of the United States, is $417,608. That's what Bobby Kennedy put in his opening part here. And then I also see his report card. Do you talk about the Anthony Fauci report card in the movie?
Are you talking about the where he has the game, the playoff games, the March Madness?
Well, it shows the death rates of COVID per million population as of 2021. That's the card I'm talking about. It shows United States as of 2021, September 30th, the death rate was 2,107 deaths per million of the population. So, I was, just kind of curious if you had that in there. But talk to me about what you were mentioning.
So there was a stunning, in his emails, there was a stunning little drawing, and he signed it, and it was the brackets like you would do if in March Madness in the playoffs, and it has Ebola, Zika virus, all this, and then finally crowned the winner, and it says winner with an exclamation point, coronavirus, as here this virus is won. And I'm looking at this joke, it's like, this was not funny. When you look at the millions of lives that were disrupted by these policies, the fact that they had planned this in advance.
Yes.
And then when it showed that it wasn't working, they doubled down. This playbook was actually already executed in 1984. Fauci became the head of the NIH's allergy and infectious disease section.
Mhm. Mhm.
This was really a small department. Allergies and infectious diseases. Infectious diseases have been waning for years. It wasn't
Mhm.
a big budget, but the AIDS crisis happened, and Fauci jockeyed to get control for his department of AIDS instead of it going to the NIH itself.
Mhm.
He got to oversee it in his department. And he built a power base and a $1.7 billion budget that when he says, I am science, he's not really far off because he decides where the money goes.
Mhm.
So people that disagreed with him, their funding dried up. They were no longer able to get published, and he silenced all his critics. And while he ran the AIDS epidemic, which he
Right.
does, he promised a vaccine every year for the last 40 years. They've
Mhm.
spent $16 billion. Of course, there's no vaccine, and nobody holds them accountable for that. Meanwhile, he silenced all his critics. You had doctors who were getting having very successful results with patients with off-label drugs that were cheap and available. And he would not do studies on those. If you remember the movie with Matthew McConaughey, the Dallas Buyers Club,
Oh,
about
yes.
these AIDS patients who
Yes.
were banding together and smuggling in drugs that were keeping them alive because Fauci would not make those drugs available and said there weren't any studies on them, but he wouldn't do the studies and he decided. Meanwhile, he only promoted AZT, which at that time was the most deadly chemotherapy drug that had ever been introduced to mankind. And it was expensive. At that time, $10,000 a year was quite expensive for a drug.
Right.
That was the standard of care. Now you roll that forward to COVID.
Right.
Again, you have frontline doctors going, hey, we're seeing great success with ivermectin. We're seeing great
Mhm.
success with
Yep.
hydroxychloroquine,
Yep. Yep.
and vitamin D and quercetin.
Yep.
And all of that was silenced and maligned and mocked and ridiculed. Meanwhile, he only wanted to promote, and the only treatment that was available was remdesivir.
Mhm.
It was a drug that was so deadly they wouldn't. It was for Ebola patients, and they found it was causing too much death in Ebola patients. And this was the drug that he backed for uh, uh, COVID-19. I guarantee you, when Fauci got COVID twice after his 4 vaccinations, he didn't put himself on a course of remdesivir. It was so deadly, nurses started calling it "Run, death is near." They,
Oh,
this
wow. I didn't
this
know that.
the game he's been playing over and over. When we first started it, I thought, well, Fauci's definitely the villain in this story.
Mhm.
Not really the villain. He's the henchman. You know,
Mm.
yes, he just released his income went up 5 million. Uh,
Right.
his assets went up 5 million over the last couple of years of COVID, but that's a drop in the bucket. Billions of dollars have been made.
Mhm.
And Moderna minted 5 billionaires during COVID, and this is a company that had never had a successful drug.
Well, let me ask you about I want to talk a little bit more about the COVID vaccination, if you can speak to that for this film. When everything started hitting, I was on the road. I was headed to CPAC. I was just getting back from New York. I travel nonstop for my work, and as whispers started of this COVID aspect, and I kept thinking population control. I kept thinking biological warfare. And, when I talked to people about it, they kept looking at me like I had two heads. And I'm sitting here thinking, wait a second, this is common sense, people. And at the end of the day, I started seeing all of these measures being taken. And I had served in the Trump administration. And another example of that is I live here in Eastern North Carolina, right by Camp Lejeune, 2 hours from Fort Bragg. And the Trump administration appointed me to go to work at the belly of the beast in Office of Personnel Management. So So I would drive back and forth to Washington. And this is one we were on lockdowns. And I sat here and thought about it. I thought, okay, I can hop in the car and drive to Washington to serve the president at the helm of the president for this aspect and work with all of my office mates. But yet we have to be in lockdown. We cannot look at one another. We cannot talk to one another. We cannot gather together in church. We cannot do X, Y, and Z. Something stinks. Something is fishy. And so, going back to those couple statements, as you are revealing this movie, does it talk about the fact that at the end of the day, it looks like it is population control, like what he and Bill Gates have been doing overseas for years? Are they trying to take out a certain generation? Are they trying to take out my parents' generation? Because I'll tell you what, looking at my parents' generation, they are the type that will get it because that's how they were raised. That's what they were used to, the polio vaccination, things of that nature. But every time I turned around, those who got it and got the boosters, they're showing early onset dementia, or they have passed, or something, some other physical issue popped up. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I really tried to stay away from what the motives. People will ask, why is Fauci doing this? Is he after money? Is he after power? And I really tried to take a lesson from Robert Malone. Whenever we interview Robert Malone, would always ask him, why is this happening? Why, what were they thinking?
Right.
And he will never answer those questions. He's like, and then I realized the integrity that this man has, and I'm really on my best behavior on this interview and in making the film, because
Yeah.
I don't guess at what they're thinking or what their motives are. There's so much that we can just show what they did. Viewer can figure out for themselves why they did it. It's I'm not able to mind read, but I am able to report on what they did, and the facts alone are sufficient to carry. The facts of this alone demand a serious and investigation, and this needs to be moved out of the court of public opinion and into the court of law, and that's where it's going to end up. You don't get by with just giving dismissive non-answers to questions.
Most definitely. Are you able to also speak to other interviews that you did in the film? You mentioned Bobby Kennedy Jr. Who else will be featured in this film?
Yeah, so there's so many. So Celia Farber was a journalist and reporter. Naomi Wolf. Then you have Peter McCullough. I mean, doctors, lawyers. We have people that were in the vaccine manufacturing, researchers. Basically, what we did is go through Bobby's book, and this was actually a much easier film to make than normal, because normally we have to do all the research. Bobby had done exhaustive research. So we did like you, we went through the book and go, oh, we got to tell this. Who is it telling that story?
Right.
And then usually it's hard to book people for interviews. This one, everybody we called were not only willing to be in the film, they were eager to tell their story.
That's fabulous. Oh, that's fabulous. What is has Bobby seen the final product?
So I just sent the last few days. I'm dealing with his staff, who are spectacular fact checkers. So they've got it out to about 5 people, and they are doing the fact checking, but they're all emailing going, wow, this is great. But the level at which they're, one of the comments yesterday is on a word on the screen. We had the open apostrophe at the beginning and the end of the sentence instead of, open and closed apostrophe.
Yeah.
So there, I'm like, okay, if that's all you're finding, man, we did a great job. But even when we were filming Bobby, he can recall off the top of his head. He's a trial lawyer, so he's used to standing up and you have to get it right. And so, but would get to something, and so we ended up having a fact checker on, the whole time we were filming, sitting in the other room watching the monitor. And me and Bobby would say, was that 2061, or was that in 2021 or 2020? And would have somebody looking this stuff up, just because he is so committed to getting
Mhm.
the facts right.
Did he, do you, mention anything in the film on side, just with regards I've heard him speak, and I know that he has, somewhat of an issue with his voice, his vocals, if you will. Does that, do you bring that up in the film as you have interviewed him, just for people to know?
Yeah, so this was really tricky. I've forgotten the it's a genetic
Yes,
disorder, and
yes.
we filmed him earlier in the year and did about a 6 hour, 8 hour interview with him at the beginning, and then afterwards he went to Japan and had a surgery.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
There's a surgery that they can do where they take the vocal cords and insert a platinum rod in between them to keep them from. In his issue, the cords stick together, and
Mhm.
they separate them, and it was about 30 to 40% effective. He was hoping for much better, but we were able to go back and re-record and improve the quality, and now we have our sound people improving the quality. And it um, so we don't make any announcement about it. I
Mhm.
remember 10 years ago, the first time I talked to him on the phone, and I heard this voice, and I'm like, wow, is he a lot older than I was thinking he was? Uh,
Yes.
it,
Yes.
it,
Yes, I had worked with one of his sisters, and I had noticed the same thing. She also has something very similar, and when I then started reading his book and hearing about it and hearing about that genetic aspect, I wondered how things were with the film. We have just about a minute or two left. Talk to us about the steps that my audience, very conservative audience, who are fully behind what you are doing to really expose the truth through your documentary, The Real Anthony Fauci. What are the top three things that people can do to get the word out for you, to get involved and to support?
Man, we need them more than you can imagine. If it wasn't for shows like yours, I would be playing in a vacuum. So
Mhm.
I believe today we have a full page ad coming out in USA Today.
Oh,
That was
fabulous.
the only media that we were able to buy. We can't buy any others. So if they'll go to the
Mhm.
realanthonyfaucimovie.com
Mhm.
and sign up, and then share the page. And then next week, when the movie starts, like literally, we're asking everybody who watches it, if they like it, if they agree that I've done a good job, to please share it with. And like on Facebook, you'll see it's being suppressed. They
I
won't
figured.
they won't take it down, but normally if I put something up on my personal Facebook page, I'll get 300-400
Mhm.
likes or comments.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I put this up, and there were, in 2 days, I had 2 likes. I'm
Yes.
like, okay, that's not, it's not even going to my own kids,
Yes.
so, you'll have to email, but whatever you do to share and get this out, this film, if 1 million people will buy a 400 to 600 page book, then
Mhm.
tens of millions should be willing to watch the documentary
Mhm.
for free. But that's only if they hear about it.
Right, right. Now, are you taking this to churches, to synagogues, to places of faith that may want to host an event for you, or book clubs or things of that nature as well?
So through the course of the next year, we'll see what we do. I wanted to get it out there in as big of an event as we could.
Mhm.
We'll do a couple of those this year where we will show it for free like this. At the end of the year, I'm donating the film to Children's Health Defense.
Oh,
Bobby,
yes,
and
yes.
so in 1 year, this is the first time I've ever done this. So I've got a year with the film, and then I'm turning over ownership to Children's Health Defense for them to use in fundraising or anything they can do to support that. I love that cause. I love
Mhm.
Children's Health Defense because they actually pay for lawyers to sue over these issues.
Mm. Oh, wow. Well, Jeff Hayes, I am so grateful for your time this morning. Thank you for what you're doing. I would love to get you back. I was studying your website and I would love to have you back to talk about your Revealed series, Christ Revealed, for the Christmas holiday. That is a beautiful documentary. I started watching the clip on that. I just absolutely love what you're doing.
Thank you so much. And again, if not for people like you, I wouldn't be able to exist. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. God bless you. And I
Thank,
look forward to seeing you soon. And I will be putting out as much as possible. And I'll send you links and we'll be sharing across as much as we can to get this out there for you.
I love it. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye bye. And for all of those who are tuning in, this is Common Sense America. I am Eden Hill. Wow, what an amazing hour of just knowledge, of understanding what is really happening at the forefront of our nation. The real Anthony Fauci movie. You have got to see this. Go sign up. I have the real Anthony Fauci movie.com going across this screen as you are watching it. Go sign up, get involved, make sure you share it with your friends and your family. It's on October 18th. It comes out 10 days. It will be out for free. And then, as you heard him say, there are many other opportunities to get involved. And if you have not picked up Bobby Kennedy Jr.'s book, yes, it is a thick read, but as you heard him say, there is, and if you look at the pages, it is very, very detailed. It is small font. You will need extra large font or a magnifying glass in some aspects. But this is a powerful read. It is exposing the truth on what really happened during COVID, the pandemic, and what is ahead. Jeff Hayes, what an amazing producer. Go to his website as well. It is, let me double check. I want to give it's jeffhayesfilms.com. Jeffhayesfilms.com. Just an amazing human and what he is doing. So for today, Common Sense America, Eden Hill here. It is Wednesday, October the 12th. And tomorrow, October the 13th, we will have another very special and new guest to the show, Brian Searcy. He is a retired Air Force, and he will be talking about his new book coming out. We're going to be talking about a lot of hot button item issues, and it will be a full 45-minute interview with him as well. We'll talk about news of the day, and then we'll go into his book and what is ahead. We have such an amazing audience. Thank you so much for all of those who are tuning in live and who also get to check out the show on Rumble, on my website, edengordonmedia.com, and also on all the social pages. We appreciate you. We're thankful for you. And as I said at the end of every broadcast, go put on that full armor of God. We have the very fight of our lives on our hands. We have got to get to work, people. There is work to be done. And don't forget, educate yourself on the candidates. Pray for our nation. We have to fight. We got to take this nation back. We have a lot to do. Surround yourself with powerful Christians, people of faith, people who want to lift you up and also want to serve this nation. Keep in mind, we have 26 days until the elections. So it's time for you to start educating yourself on whatever state you are living in and to know the issues. We are grateful and thankful for each and every one of you. Tune in tomorrow, another new and live episode at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you. Have a great day and God bless you all.